Bum. It's your boy Big Vern. It's the bottom of the hour. Y'all rocking with the best. I know, that's why y'all here. Before we get into it, we're gonna hit you with a rap break. Y'all know how we do. It's your boy Big Vern coming to you live from the App Stupid Studios. We got another rap album we pushing this month. Smoke Dizza, On My Way to Berlin, in stores now. Get it where you legally consume music, whether it's Apple Music, Google Play, or Spotify. My personal favorites on the LP is For FIF and Broadway. Ooh. My goodness, that song and Spaceships with Mike and Keys. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. That's crazy. Then him and Dave East with Check. I'm a check. Oh wow. That whole setup, just everything, the schemes, the double entendres, them dudes is wild on the mic. Then Crimson, LV constructs and fourth rope heels. Woo. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 is my song. 10 out of 10 is my song. And an 11-11 with Dom Kennedy. Smoke Dizza's playing no games. This LP On My Way to Berlin, trust me. Once you play, just let it play. Let it play. You're gonna get there. It's your boy Big Vern. Holla at us. Yeah, shout out to Smoke Dizza On My Way to Berlin. Make sure you check that out. Show that brother some love. Gilbert Arenas. Let's talk about this real quick because I know it's made the rounds, and I usually sit there and I'll let people hang themselves, so to say. You give them enough rope, and then they start reading in things, and then now everybody has their own agenda, whether you like Gilbert Arenas or you don't. Some people, when they seen this, they ran with it to the high heavens. They ran to the high heavens with this because they have a personal relationship with Gil that maybe didn't end on the best of terms. I ain't speaking on nobody's business. I don't want nobody to speak on mine. But when I looked at the criminal complaint for Gilbert Arenas, it's very hard to decipher what actually did he do. Because the criminal complaint, he was indicted on operating an illegal gambling business at an Encino, California mansion that he owned. Nowhere in the criminal complaint does it say that he was present at any of these games. One count of conspiracy to operate an illegal gambling business. I don't know why. And that doesn't make sense because his podcast is sponsored by Underdog. That's a gambling sports site. He already has that sponsor. So why would he need to open an illegal business? And I know it's hard for people to think critically because it's someone that you detest. I don't personally know Gilbert Arenas. Now, self-admittingly, I was a huge Arizona fan in the 90s with Lute Olson, Mike Bibby, Mal Simons, Michael Dickerson, Gilbert Arenas, AJ Bramlett. I'm from that school. I was a huge Arizona fan back then. But I don't personally know Gilbert Arenas. I don't hate Gilbert Arenas. I don't like Gilbert Arenas because I don't know him. Hate and like are adjectives people use when you're in close proximity to one another or you have some sort of physical relationship and you know them. I don't know him. But I'm not going to jump up and down and rejoice because you have a father who was arrested by the FBI in connection with a criminal element. And when you go and read the complaint, he was not present at any of these games. Nobody wants to talk about that. One count of operating an illegal gambling business, conspiracy to operate illegal. So again, I think in his case, it's being sensationalized because he owned the property. And one count of making a false statement to a federal investigator. And so when you hear the false statement of making these claims to federal investigators, what exactly did he lie about in his statement? Because when you go back and you read the transcripts, this has been going on since 2022, 2023. And then the criminal element no one wants to talk about is everybody who was at the games, everybody who was caught, everybody who set these things up. And again, Gilbert Arenas could potentially be looking at 15 years because these are all federal accounts. These are all federal cases. And so it's 5 years per count. That's why he's looking at that amount of time if he's convicted. But also, he's not in the criminal indictment as being at any of these games. There is no way that he has a LLC set up where he's illegally moving money. If there was ever an applicable reason to use a RICO indictment, this would be the case. However, his name was swept up in this as it reads to me. Like I said, as it reads to me, more information will come out. But as it reads, his name was implicated in this because he's the property owner and nothing more. Give me a quick 20 and we'll dive into who was there, what are these people's involvement, and what was going on. It's your boy Big Vern. It's your boy Big Vern coming to you live from the Absolute Studios. We pushing another rap album this month. Raekwon, The Emperor's New Clothes, in stores now. Get it where you legally consume music, whether it be Apple Music, Google Play, or Spotify. My personal favorites on the track is Buried Hill. Pomegranate is Wild with Inspector Det. Ooh wee! Wu-Tang Killer Bees, my goodness. Then you got Wild Corsicans with Benny the Butcher. Butcher coming. West Side Gun. You know I've been dying to do that. One Life, 600 School, the guy that plans it, the heavies, the Armoretta with Nas. Enough said. It's like verbal intercourse on the first Raekwon album. Oh, Built for Cuban Links, which is a classic. My goodness. Deborah Nightwine, that's out there with Marsha Ambrose. She's highly talented and she don't get enough love. But yeah, that song is crazy. And Mac and Lobster with Ghostface Killer. The Emperor's New Clothes. Raekwon in stores now. Yeah, shout out to Reaganate. Make sure y'all go holler at the chef. Wu-Tang, they made a heck of a summer out of this year. Shout out to Wu. But looking at where we go with this whole Gilbert Arenas, because they said he was running a legal business, a gambling business, from September of 2021 to July of 2022. And he was renting out the mansion in purpose of hosting high-stakes illegal poker games. I take issue with that. And the only reason I take issue with that is that I use my brain, because there's no way, other than he may have not known these people from Adam. You can go ahead and rent somebody some property just on a landlord, just landlord. Here we go. You own a piece of property and someone wants to rent said property. They give you not only their name so you can skip trace them and see if they got any evictions, they owe any landlords any money and everything. And then you do a background check. If all those things come back, then pretty much you rent them the property. Hey, this is what it's going to be every month. I need my money on this day of the month and blah, 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 so on and so forth. Okay. Now, when you get into a position like Gil, this isn't the only property that he owns. This isn't his personal home that he lives in. This is rental property. So by just that definition of default, he could have multiple properties and have what's called a property manager and tell the property manager, hey, look, this is pretty much standard of what's going on. The property manager is then responsible for collecting the rent from all of the properties and turning those in, and then scheduling maintenance and upkeep and everything. Now, see, that's a business mind, okay? To say Gil was in the middle of all of these high-stakes poker games, that's highly unlikely. Because, again, when you read the indictment, it never says that he was there. It never says that he was there. Now, something called pot limit Omaha games. I don't know what that's about. Apparently, these dudes hit a rake, and that's a fee the house charges from each pot. These games were staffed with young women, chefs, valets, and armed security guards. So you're telling me Gilbert Arenas set into motion that? Honestly, here's a guy who's doing a podcast every day. He's got to go out and find young women to work these illegal poker games. And he's got to go ahead and find armed security mercenaries. And he's got to hire valets to park people's car. This is much bigger than Gil. The only reason Gil's in the front of this is that he is the property owner. Again, I cannot keep repeating this. Everybody jumped up and down. Oh, Gil. Oh, Gil. Oh, there's no objectivity to this. If he was as bad as everybody says he was, then why is he out on bail? And I differ with the opinions of Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. Smith is like, hey, look, you got to go ahead and, be contrite, and you got to be meek and put your head down and don't joke around. Look, dude, be you. I would be like Gil too if I didn't do nothing. How Stephen A. would handle a situation, that's how Stephen A. handles situations. He's used to shucking and jiving. He can do anything he wants to do. That's Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, what works for him is not going to work for Gilbert Arenas. You dig what I'm saying? You dig what I'm saying? But also by that, he's hiring armed mercenaries, valets, women, chefs, and I'm running the game, and I'm training kids for basketball because he's a trainer. He trained his son. If we're talking about 21, 22, and 23, he was training kids. He trained his son. He trained Sky Clark. And so in the middle of being a very avid podcaster, and you're cultivating these relationships with your sponsors, you're training kids, you own multiple properties, you got time to do an illegal gambling business. That's not possible. That's not possible. But the interesting characters that no one wants to talk about is the Israeli organized crime figure, 49-year-old Yevgeny Gershom. He also faces charges of conspiracy to commit marriage fraud, and making a false statement on an immigration document after being accused of conspiring to enter into a sham marriage with a 35-year-old Valentina Caprizi for the purpose of obtaining permanent legal status in the United States and lying to immigration authorities. This guy is the guy that they're after. This guy is the one they're after, and the news doesn't want to talk about this at all. The news doesn't want to talk about this guy being the one who lied to immigration people, because from what I heard, and certain factions in this country, we want illegal immigrants out of the country. Well, what happened right here? Violent criminals, we want them out of the country. Well, yeah, tick, tick, tick. Me beating my watch like Dame Lillard. Well, yeah, come on now. Funny how ICE didn't look to lock this dude up. That's strange. Now, other defendants also include 48-year-old Evgeny Tarutsky, 52-year-old Alan Austria, 27-year-old Gavin Cohen, and 43-year-old Levkin Kroken. If convicted, each of the defendants face a statutory minimum sentence of 5 years in prison per count, which we went over. Now, how did he get mixed up with these people? That would be a question. That's a fair question to ask Gil. How did you get mixed up with these people? And by definition, Gil could come out and say, hey, look, I went ahead and had my property manager screen for any criminal background. Nothing came back. Any evictions that was out there, nothing came back. They paid the deposit and the first month's rent, and they kept the property nice when we had people go over to fix the property. That's where his involvement would end. But the lying to the FBI, that's where they say, hey, look, he's charged with doing this. Because it would be very hard for them to prove that Gil was running an illegal sports betting business. It would be hard for them to prove that he was operating an illegal gambling business, because in the criminal complaint, none of it says that he was there. He wasn't even arrested at the same time these guys were arrested. Which leads me to think, deductive reasoning, ding, 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 they were there. He wasn't. Anytime you have people that go to jail at different times, that means that they all wasn't locked up together. These people were probably caught in the act. See where I'm going with that? They try to say at Gil's direction, Arthur Katz, 51 of West Hollywood, staged the mansion to host the games, found co-conspirators to host the games, and collected rent from the co-conspirators on Arenas' behalf. Now, that is the giveaway. That right there. Number one, he's probably Gilbert Arenas' property manager. As far as stage the games, I don't know what that means. Like, did he go in and set up the poker chips and set up whatever, and he coordinated to get all of these? I don't think that that's the case. However, he says that he was collecting rent. So the only question that I would have for Mr. Arthur Katz is, do you collect the rent at Gil's other properties? And if he says yes, that would make him the property manager, which wouldn't be too far off from us thinking that, hey, look, Gil is busy doing other things. He owns property. He has a property manager to collect his rent. That's where I would go with that. The whole conspirators, that's language. That's law language. This is lawfare. Because notice how they didn't say that Arthur Katz collected money from any of those Israeli mob Thai guys. Never said that once at all. So if he's not collecting money from those individual guys who were at that game and got busted, that would lead you to believe he's the property manager who just collects the money from everybody. Gil owns property and they rent from Gil. I'm just using my brain. And I say allegedly, because I don't want to get sued. Here's some things that got by people in this indictment. And I have to walk down this because, again, I encourage people to think. Just like with the whole Sean Combs thing, I want you to think. I want you to think. I don't want you to be sensationalized. I don't want people to sit there and hold that, because a lot of people are concerned with being first. They're not concerned with being right. Now, Gershom, he hired young women who, in exchange for tips, served drinks, provided massages, and offered companionship to poker players. Again, did Gil get a cut of this money? The answer is no. This is all from the criminal complaint. And also, why is prostitution not considered in any of this? If Gershom is going out finding women, and I suspect he's the one who had the armed guards, I also suspect that he's the one who hired the valets, and I also suspect he's the one who everybody was kicking up a portion of their earnings to. But they try to make Gil the face of this. You got a guy right here who's lied to be in this country, who is a suspected Israeli mob figure. You have him in a criminal complaint saying that he hired women, young women, to go and be companions to high speed. I mean, how is this not reported in the media? You see what I'm saying? I'm the only person talking about this on this level. I swear to you. I don't know how prostitution didn't get added to those charges. And if you're having women offer themselves on your behalf to other players, then there has to be a count of prostitution. Is that a fair question? Especially when it's alleged that the women are charged a tax, a percentage of their earnings for working the games. That's the textbook definition of prostitution. Folks, Gresham was pimping. One reason I think prostitution wasn't added to the criminal complaint is because hooking in the state of California is a misdemeanor offense. It carries a $1,000 fine and up to 6 months in prison. The gambling charge, it carries more teeth because there are federal charges with mandatory minimum sentences of 5 years. Crockett worked as the chip runner, in which he tracked players' wins and losses, distributed poker chips to players, and paid employees. Again, that's why I said all of these people were caught at different times. If you really want the truth, little channels like me are telling you the truth. I watch everybody be the first to run out there and trip over their dick and just give you, oh, I'm reacting to Gil. I react to the paperwork, because what you say in court is different than what you say in front of a microphone. Because in court, perjury is a real thing, and that could carry a prison sentence with it. What you say in front of a microphone, that's he say, she say. That could be easily fought, debunked, or whatever. But here you have it. Crockett, he worked as a chip runner, which he was tracked players' wins and losses, distributed poker chips to players, and he paid employees. Both Gresham and Kajarki submitted false information on their U.S. immigration forms, including Gresham's answer of no as to whether he had ever been detained by any law enforcement officials, and as to whether he intended to engage in illegal gambling or any other form of commercialized vices. There it is. There it is right there. You have the players who were involved, but everybody zeroes in on Gilbert Arenas. Everybody zeroes in on Gilbert Arenas. And I'm probably the only objective voice to come out here and say, no, the real gangsters are the ones people aren't talking about. Is it their nationality? Again, certain factions are saying that they don't want illegal immigrants in this country. Violent criminals, we're trying to deport them. You all have known about these people since the Biden administration. Now it's the Trump administration. He's on the clock. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You see how the media will like to twist, conflate, and blend these storylines together? Gil didn't do half of the stuff. He probably knew half of the stuff in life people said that he did. He's a fun, joking guy. I get it. That turns a lot of people off. A lot of people might not rock with that. Okay, cool. But when you're happy that a father, a husband, an entrepreneur, someone who is just trying to go ahead and get through life like the rest of us. He bought property. He has a property manager. They rented property. If he did all of his background checks and his background work, he showed the FBI. And the charge of lying to federal investigators, if this Gershom character lied on his immigration application, what lies did he tell Gilbert Arenas? So I can only tell you what he told me. See how that worked? You see how that worked? I just gave you enough doubt about his involvement to where you now think abstract and like, wait a minute, whoa. Some of this don't make sense. Back some of this up. You all didn't even put prostitution in as a charge. And this Gresham character was recruiting women for companionship with guys who would come there to play. And never said Gil partook in any of that at all. I know this is a long segment. No, I got off on a diatribe, but I wanted to be accurate. The Assistant United States Attorney Samuel J. Diaz of the Transnational Organized Crime Section, he's prosecuting this case. Also, the Assistant United States Attorney Ryan J. Waters of the Asset Forfeiture and Recovery Section is handling the asset forfeiture related to the portion of this case. So they're going to go ahead and take the mansion. Gil's going to lose his mansion out of all of this. And more will be brought out once they get to a grand jury and they handle this business. However, I want to chill with people just implicating Gilbert Arenas off the rip. Different minds. Let me know what you think. Again, if you are listening to this pod, get in the comments. Let us know, did we get it right? What did we leave out? This is Big Vern. We talk back. We'll be back. Top of the hour. This